What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and yes! Woo! What a game! What a win! Fantastic victory! I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, how do you feel about Sorry now, man? I'm just still not sold. I love the fact that we won. Great performance the final 15-ish minutes. But just still not sold. And, if you had to ask me today, all right, so who was it that really, won us the game? I'd have to say, sorry, not sorry. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. Because I can't edit, there's not going to be any applause or anything. It's just going to be me saying that to empty space. Because I'm alone. Anyways, on to the actual review itself. Yeah, I know a lot of people are going to look at this and say, what a great victory. A lot of people are going to say, we beat Liverpool, got some momentum going into the weekend. But here's the thing. It didn't really have much to do with Sorry. Honestly, the subs that he made, we got lucky almost. Because in reality, when you look at it, it really was Liverpool's game until those last 15 minutes. And that was down to a couple things. First of all, you bring on Hazard, he's going to change the game for you. And I'm glad that he did, just because I think after the West Ham game, I was a little bit worried he might be getting back into that rut of just kind of doing his own thing. It's almost like there are moments when he sort of cruises through a game, and it feels like whenever that happens, it happens for a few games, not just one. So I was worried it was going to be that way for the next few games. It was just going to be Hazard in a rut and not really doing much to affect the game. But thankfully he came on and he really did get involved right away. It wasn't him that drew the foul, but a lot of his good play led to us taking the game back to Liverpool. Because honestly, until he came on, it was Liverpool. The entirety of, well, actually I say that, he came on and they scored. 10 minutes after he came on was about when he started getting more involved. And it typically happens for subs. It takes some time for them to get involved. And honestly, Hazard doesn't really get going for about 10 minutes. So once he got involved, though, and once he started really getting moving, getting on the ball, it really affected the game. And you could feel our dominance start to grow after he started getting more involved. So that was one thing. Conte coming on was another good change. I think it wasn't our best change. I think the player that he took off was the wrong player. But ultimately, you bring Conte on, he's going to bring some more stability in the midfield for you for sure. And then David Luiz for Christensen. Now, Christensen wasn't having a good game. And I will grant you that taking him off is probably a good choice. But David Luiz on for him? I just don't understand that change. And while it didn't hurt us, there's a potential it could have. He's wild, he's crazy. Why do you want to bring that on? Better option would just be go with either a back three or, drop somebody like a midfielder, preferably Conte, and is almost a stopper. And so you've got the back two of Azpilicueta and Cahill with Conte sort of in the middle, and then you got Emerson and Moses running your wings, and you've got Fabregas and I would have preferred Kovacic in. And you bring somebody else on like, who we have on the bench? Maybe you bring on Jorginho, and he can sit with Conte, and they can sort of control the midfield. Or you bring on Hudson-Odoi for some energetic pace up top. Now, ultimately, we ended up getting the win, which a lot of people will say, well, clearly his subs had something to do with it. But really, you look at it, the only sub that provided what he needed to was Hazard. Conte, he did what he normally does. Conte, you bring him in a game, it doesn't matter what position you put him in, he's going to do what he always does, which is win back the ball, put some good pressure on. But you look at Barkley, there's not really much he did to confirm the fact that keeping him on the field was a good decision. David Luiz, you bring him on, he didn't do anything crazy, thankfully, but he didn't do anything that really made me think, yes, he was what we needed on the field. So I don't know what his thinking is. And it's not like he's making these changes to affect the game. He's just making like-for-like switches, which is what he always does. And so it worked in this case, but only because Hazard turned it on and turned on the style. And, great free kick in to lead to the first goal, and then phenomenal wonder goal that we see him score from time to time for the second one to win it for us. It was all him. Not really much from Sorry, though. And I really want to know what he told him at halftime because, good Lord, we came out so slow and languid in the second half. It was embarrassing for the first 10 minutes. We were literally gifting them chances. And if not for the fact that one, Sturridge is a terrible striker, and two, Caballero was somehow playing out of his mind, we could have easily been down 3-0 at the beginning of the first or second half. So I'm still not, I just don't see what all these other people are seeing. You know, all the people that are praising him for his attack style, all of this stuff. Great that he's so attack-minded, but I want to see more from him as a coach. I want to see more from him in his decision-making, because what I'm seeing is not convincing to me. What I'm seeing is just the same stuff game after game. Sometimes it works because he has superstars that come off the bench and win the game for him. Sometimes he doesn't have that, like against West Ham. Nothing to bring off the bench, and look what happened. We couldn't find that goal. So, I don't know. I don't see anything as far as him changing a game. I don't see any of that. I see the players changing the game, not him. So, that's just my opinion. You know, obviously, I've had people disagree with me on Sarri a lot. It's fine. You know, if you thinks he's doing a great job, well, great. You know, we're through to the next round over Liverpool. Good job for him, but I still haven't seen enough to convince me. Now, on to the players on the field. A couple of them did impress, and then there were a couple that did not. So, first of all, Caballero in goal. Honestly, probably the best game I think I've seen from him in a Chelsea jersey. I mean, he's had some real stinkers of games in the past, and so having him in the cup competition is always that one thing where it's just like, okay, he's the backup keeper. We know this. We know he's probably going to give up a goal or two. He didn't give up any tonight. I mean, really played a great game. The very first minute of the second half when Christensen just passes the ball right to Sturridge, I'm thinking this has got to be a goal. And while I did say Sturridge is a terrible striker, and to a point, I mean, he is not that great. I mean, obviously, people will talk about, oh, what a great goal. I mean, come on. It was a bike, and there was nobody in the goal. It was a great athletic goal, but there's really nothing special about scoring a bike with no keeper in the goal and really no pressure from the defense on you. Anyway, but I mean, you look at that, and he did pretty much what he should have done. He tried to take it around the keeper. You know, he waited until the keeper committed. And in all reality, I mean, Caballero has no business getting to that, but somehow still gets there, gets a hand on it, which then puts him off enough to where now he can't get his feet sorted out and he hits a terrible shot and misses. That's all Caballero's doing. I mean, just that little bit was enough to put him off and rush him into missing the shot. And then there were a couple, I mean, even the save that led to the goal was a pretty good save because everybody just sort of turned off, and now he's got to make a great save, and it's just unfortunate that it parries it into a position where Sturridge can now bike it in, and there's no pressure from Emerson. So, you know, it's one of those things where you don't really want to see keepers that are doing a great job sort of pushed off to the bench because they're not the starting keeper. But if he continues to play like that, considering how Kepa hasn't really proven anything as far as, you know, we bought him for this much and he's not doing a thing. Honestly, I mean, if Caballero can play like that every game, I wouldn't mind seeing him go in because we need a keeper who's going to make some great saves, and he did that in this game. So that's another one that I'm interested to see what's going to happen from here on out. So you look at the back four, Azpilicueta, not his best game today again. I don't know, I thought he'd grown accustomed back to that fullback position, and in these past two games, it feels like he still hasn't. Just nothing from him on Saturday. Was it Saturday? It was. No, it was Sunday. Yeah. I don't know, I'm getting my days all mixed up. It's been a long several months. No, but he didn't really play well against West Ham, didn't really provide much going forward, and defensively he got beat too easily a couple times. Same thing here. You know, he's up against Mane, which is a difficult task, but I've seen him compete against some of the best players in the world. And Mane is really, really good, but not one of the best players in the world. And he kept getting beat every single time. So, yeah, it just seems like he's not really turned on these past couple games. Maybe he needed a break. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what we could have done, but he just wasn't really on his game tonight. And it hurt us a couple times. They got him behind, and it was dangerous. Cahill, honestly, not too bad. He's still a bit slow at times. It still feels like there are moments where he kind of, I don't know if he's just losing focus or if he just doesn't see it as well. But, yeah, there's some times when he gets beat behind and, I mean, he doesn't have the pace to catch whatever's going The speed that they had up top tonight, he's not catching any three of those players. So I still worry about that because we face a lot of teams that have those pacey strikers up top, and if Cahill's in, he's not catching them. So while I do think he did a good job for the most part defensively, it's the speed that still really hurts him. And Christensen honestly had probably one of the worst games of his career tonight. I don't know what happened. I don't know where this came from, but honestly, that's the worst I've ever seen Christensen play. So the fact that he's doing this under Sarri, who's not really giving him a chance, is it the coach? Is it physical stuff? I mean, he went straight down the tunnel whenever he got subbed off. So is he hurting a little bit? I mean, I honestly want to know because he was not playing well at all. And from a defender who last season was very consistent, very solid defensively, I mean, going forward, sometimes he can provide a good pass. I know that's why David Luiz has been in because going forward he's better. But defensively, Christensen has always been very, very solid. He doesn't give up a lot. He doesn't, give away passes. Very, very good at keeping possession. That wasn't tonight. So I'd love to know what happened. I'd love to know the reason behind this, but it's concerning because he seemed like he was going to be the next. Everybody's comparing him. Is he the next John Terry? After that, I'd say I don't know, because we don't need performances like that just randomly. So I hope it's just a blip. I hope it's something that doesn't repeat itself, but we'll see going forward. And then Emerson, honestly, kind of a hit and miss night. There were moments going forward he looked really good. There were a couple times on defense he looked okay, but then he had some really bad moments as well. Lack of pressure at times. On the ball, it felt like there were a couple times when he couldn't release it quick enough. So like I said, it just sometimes he plays really well, sometimes he doesn't. And we just need more consistency from that position because Alonso's not bringing consistency. There are some games where he's outstanding, some games where he's just a cone. So we've got to find a player who can fit that position better, hopefully in January, because they didn't do it over the summer. But we need a player that's going to play that position and do it well every single game, not just every other game or at points throughout a game. So that was our back line. And if I'm being honest, defensively, while for the first half we looked okay, second half is where things really started to fall apart again. And that's the one part of the game where I feel like Sarri has made us weaker this year is defensively we do not look as solid. We are giving up chances that honestly we wouldn't in the past. So yeah, that's it for the back line. But you look into the midfield and it just doesn't look nearly as strong as it has this season. You got Fabregas in the middle, you've got Kovacic, and you've got Barkley. Just not a strong midfield. Kovacic is a good player, and honestly, I was really frustrated whenever he was the one to come off, just because he was the best of that three. And I don't know if he's like spitting Sarri's coffee at the beginning of the season, and Sarri's like, "Oh, I'm only going to play you for 60 minutes every single game," but he's always the one that gets subbed out, and I don't understand why, because most of the time he's the one that's looking the most positive out of those three. There's been like one game where he didn't have a good game. So I don't really understand that decision. It's bizarre to me. Like, he's playing so well, he's creating chances, he's quick on the ball. There are times I mistake him for Hazard because of how fluid he is on the ball. Defensively, he does work back and makes good challenges. Honestly, didn't deserve the yellow because he got the ball. Okay, if you want to give him the foul for coming through the player to get the ball, fine. But then why isn't that a foul on Henderson later on in the game? Anyway, no, but it's one of those things where why is he not given more time? Why is he the one always subbed off? And especially you look at Barkley, honestly didn't really remember much from him. He had a couple moments, but overall, you look at the entirety of the game, he was kind of a spectator. So why is Kovacic being subbed out and Barkley still in? If you're trying to go get a goal, if you're trying to go win the game, why are you taking off the better of the two midfielders? I don't understand the switch. I don't understand the thinking behind it. If it's, Kovacic's fitness, why is he still not fit enough to go full 90 minutes this far into the season? But I'm very confused. It's a confusing switch. It's one that I feel like didn't really provide much more in the midfield. I mean, it provided a bit more defensive structure, but it didn't really change much. It pretty much just, you've got a player who's a bit more attack-minded but works his butt off for a player that's more defensive-minded and works his butt off. So I don't know. I don't understand. Probably never will understand, but that's, that's how sometimes it happens. But as far as Fabregas is concerned, because he's the one I didn't really talk about, uh, it's okay. Defensively, he still doesn't really look fast enough to keep up. But on the ball, he looked back to his old self. Quick passes out wide, good distribution in the midfield. Definitely a player that when Jorginho needs a break, you can throw him in there for that distribution role and it'll work fine. So good to know that he still has that eye for finding those good passes. And then you go into the front three. Willian, spectator tonight, and it's really disappointing because with Pedro out injured, this is Willian's chance to step up and take that position. Because Pedro, while he has had a couple off games, he's also had some really good games as well. And so Willian has kind of been in and out, depending on who's in better form. Well, Pedro is now injured, which means it's Willian's chance to step up and take that position for sure, and he's not. Against West Ham, he was useless. Tonight, he was useless. So it's kind of concerning for him because he's a good player. We've seen him in the past. We've seen him play really well, and now he's just kind of becoming a player. And we don't need players on our team, so disappointed for him. Moses on the other side, also putting in a good bid for him to step into the first team, which is another knock on Willian, because he was positive, he's energetic, he's taking on defenders, he's being strong, holding up possession and, keeping the ball from the defenders as well. I mean, just all around, he looked good out there. And on top of that, he provided width, which is something we needed against West Ham. So, once again, why didn't you bring him on? But anyway, that game's over and done with. Not going to focus on it. And then Morata. Now let's talk about the subs. Okay. I'll talk about Morata for just a second. I know people are going to talk about, but he had some good chances. But he had a couple moments where he stepped up. Okay, here's the thing. You have 90 minutes as a striker to make your impact on the game. You have 90 minutes. There's no Giroud on the bench, which means you're going the full 90. So do something about it. Do something to show why you deserve game time. Things you don't need to do if you want to show that you deserve game time. 1, miss your second one-on-one opportunity in 2 games. You had the one against Fabianski where you chipped it and hit him in the face. And then you have the one tonight where you were through on goal and then chipped it and hit Mignolet in the face. Why don't you stop chipping the ball? Why don't you learn to adjust? And while we're on that topic, why don't you adjust your runs? Second thing you shouldn't do is keep the same run behind the defender every single time. The person on the width is looking, where's my help? Where's my ball in? Morata's jogging behind Matip like, hey, I'm right here behind the big, tall defender. Find me. Change your run. Cut back. Cut in front of him. Cut across him. Do something different. He never does. He never, ever, 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 ever does. And you're wondering, are you exaggerating? No. I swear, every time I watch him, he's making that same exact run. When they cross the ball and he's running behind the defender, the defender clears it. Whenever the ball goes up in the air, most of the time, what does he do? Watches the defenders. The defender heads it away. Doesn't put a challenge in on him at all. He's like, I'll play the miss. They're not going to miss it at this level. You play the miss in high school. Okay, the defender might miss this header and then I'm going to be throwing goal. They're not going to miss it at professional level. If you don't put a challenge in on them, they're not missing it. And guess what? You never do. I remember him doing it once in the second half. I'm like, look at that. You do know how to do it. So why don't you do it all the time? And it's that frustration because not only is he not doing all this stuff, but we don't have another striker to put instead of him because we loaned out Batshuayi and we loaned out Abraham. So who are we going to turn to now? If Giroud's not getting it done, you're going to turn to Morata? We know he's not going to get it done for sure because he's had chance after chance after chance to change and he hasn't done it. So, I'm done with him. I really am. After watching this game, all I could think is I'm done. I'm done hoping he's going to get better. I'm done hoping that maybe he'll come along, maybe he'll learn, because he's had ample opportunities. And watching this game as he did the exact same thing throughout the entire game and never affected it, and how many times was he offsides again in this one? I don't have hope for him anymore. We wasted money on another player, And it's not like a Torres situation where he was better at another team because of the way he plays and he comes to us and it's a different style of play. That's not the situation. The situation is he's a player that had it easy at one team. And so, he was at Real Madrid, one of the best clubs in the world. And so everybody thought he was the best. And he'd come off the bench and he was the best at Real Madrid because he was in La Liga and it was too easy for him. And then he comes to the Premier League, he's being forced to have to work by these defenders, and he doesn't have the work ethic to do it. And it's killing us. Anytime he's in, it's killing us. So, my rant about Morata is complete. Now let's talk about the substitutions. Hazard, I already talked about him a bit, came off the bench, and he won us the game. Single-handedly, he took us and just, boom, won us the game. Great ball in on the free kick, which I'll talk about that just a little bit for VAR's sake because it is being used. This is a situation where I feel like VAR kills a game because it took how long for them to look at that? And here's the thing. Morata was offside, yes. But he's not playing the ball. So that one should have been decided just like that. If they're looking at Barkley, because I didn't have the volume on so I couldn't hear what they were looking at. But if they're looking at Barkley, if it is so close to where you have to pull up the lines and see, and it still isn't obvious, move on. Because that's the thing. If it's something where he is leaning ahead of them and it's clear and obvious he's offside, call the offsides. But if it's a situation where he is right next to a defender and it is literally like this, and you have to zoom in to see that's not offsides. If it's that close, you give him the benefit of the doubt. You let it play on. And I know Liverpool fans are obviously going to be upset and say, no, clearly he was offside because his little bit of his shoulder was ahead. If it's that little, just let it go. Don't spend 2 or 3 minutes looking at it to see if maybe that little millimeter of himself was offside. Because that's just pointless. That ruins a game. It's like, oh, look at how close. If it's the ball crossing the line and it's that much, that's one thing. But if it's a player being offside by that much, nobody's going to notice that. That's ridiculous. And to spend that much time looking at it is also ridiculous. So, I just want to get a little VAR rant because I hate VAR so much sometimes. But yeah, so Hazard, great ball in for the goal. Good header from Barkley. I'll give him that. Did well to beat that first defender and get it on goal. And then obviously Henderson did well to be there to follow up. And then of course I could talk about that Hazard goal forever. First the Meg on Firmino, which was brilliant, and then he takes it, just says, get off of me, Keita. And then Moreno's like, I'm going to stop him. And Hazard just started laughing and pokes it around him and just blasts it far corner. It's just like, oh. It reminded me of the time that he just shrugged off Coquelin for Arsenal and just ran down the field and there were 3 Arsenal defenders around him. And he's just like, this is too easy. And it just scores. Oh my gosh. Sometimes his goals can be the most beautiful things to watch. And that's probably one I'm going to be watching a few times. Then I'll talk about Conte a little bit. Honestly, came on, did exactly what I expected him to do. Provided some more defensive stability, very busy worker. I was hoping to give him a bit of a rest just because I don't want to have to run him every single game, but, it is what it is. You needed him to come on to provide more energy in the midfield, and he did that, so it's good to see. Still disappointed, though, that he came on for Kovacic instead of Barkley. And then the last sub was, like I said, David Luiz on for Christensen. And, just didn't do anything positive or negative that I could notice. Just sort of did his job. So I guess that is a good thing for David Luiz flying under the radar for the first time in a while, because that's kind of what we need from him most of the time. It would be great if he could just, chop off all the hair. And so I don't even notice him now. I'm just like, I don't notice the hair. I don't notice his playing because he's just doing his job and what he needs to do. That would be brilliant. But it's not going to happen because he's a character, and he knows he's a character, and he's going to keep being that character until the end of his days. So, but all that being said, it's good to be through to the next round. Even if the Carabao Cup is not the most important thing in the world, people look at it, it's like, it's just the League Cup. Who cares? It's still a tournament, though. It's a chance for you to play some opposition from lower leagues. The FA Cup is another one, but the FA Cup is a bit more special. But the League Cup is still a chance for teams to show the depth of their squads. And honestly, in the first half, it seemed like we had more depth than Liverpool, because we had on a pretty secondary team. with some exceptions like Aspilicueta, like Kovacic, and Willian. Honestly, were the three that probably will be getting more playing time than the rest of them. And we still had a really good team out there. And for most of the first half, we took it to them. And this is a Liverpool team that, same thing with them. Most of their secondary team, except for, Mane, Keita, and then Matip in the back. I mean, those are pretty much the only ones that won't regularly be featuring. So, or will regularly be featuring in the league. So it's one of those things where you kind of compare the squads. They're similar. You got two strikers that are normally terrible. So it's kind of a clash to see who has more depth to their side. We look like we did in the first half. They look like they did in the second half. And then we bring on the game changers, and Hazard was just a bigger game changer than Firmino or Salah. So it was good to get the win. It's good to move on the cup competitions. I'm still not convinced on Sarri, but hopefully this Saturday or Sunday, whenever it is, I'll have to look and see again. But hopefully when we face Liverpool in the league this weekend, we can show that we have not only depth, but a better first team. Because honestly, I mean, we've got to win that game. It's not a game that we can go and just hope to get a draw, just to eke out a win. We need to win. We need to show why we are at the top or near the top of the league, why we are fighting for the title this year, and not just fighting for top four. And this is a perfect place for us to sort of gauge where we are. So that's all for me. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.